He was cursed to die at 21, but when death came for him, he did something no one expected. They say the stars shuddered the night he was born. The moon turned red, and a wind so loud swept through the kingdom of Ekan that even the newborns cried from wombs not yet opened. That night, a voice was heard in the king's chamber, a whisper that came from nowhere yet shook every wall in the palace. This child shall live in glory, but die on his 21st birthday. The queen screamed, the king's hands trembled, but the baby, eyes wide, skin golden like roasted yam, and a birthmark shaped like a rising sun on his shoulder, only smiled. His name was Aderemi, meaning the crown has comforted me. But from that night, he wasn't a child, he was a ticking clock. As he grew, the curse grew with him. By age 10, he was stronger and wiser than most men. He could hunt without fear, speak 5 languages, and calm lions with his voice. The kingdom loved him. His parents adored him. But in the corner of every celebration sat silence. Because everyone was counting down. By age 15, no one spoke of his future. No marriage plans, no travels, just prayers, long, loud, desperate ones. But Aderemi, he laughed louder than anyone, danced harder, loved deeper, until one day, on his 20th birthday, he walked alone into the sacred forest, looked to the sky and whispered, "I don't want to die. I'm not done yet. If there is anyone, anything, show me how to live." And the forest answered with a voice that didn't sound like man or beast. "If you truly want to live, then you must do what no man dares." And so the journey began. A journey to fight fate itself, to choose life over prophecy. But at what cost? Subscribe now if you want to hear the full story of the prince who dared death, because from this point on, nothing will ever be the same again.
The forest had never spoken before, not to man, not to beast. But when Aderemi returned from that sacred place, his eyes were different, sharper, hungrier, as if the silence around him now held answers instead of fear. For days, he wandered, not as a prince, but as a boy with nothing to lose. He dropped his fine robes, kept only his bow, and followed the old paths. Those paths the elders warned children never to enter, the ones that led to where stories went to die. His feet ached, his tongue dried, his thoughts twisted. "What if I just accepted it?" he whispered one night under a baobab tree. "What if dying is easier than trying to outrun the wind?" That was when he saw her, an old woman, sitting in the middle of a dust-covered road. No footprints, no noise, just her. Skin dark as dusk, eyes pale like a moon left too long in the sun. She didn't speak, not at first. She stared, until Aderemi took a step forward. "You came with nothing," she croaked. "That's the only way to come." He knelt before her. "I want to leave." She laughed, a dry, broken sound that sounded like leaves crackling underfoot. "Then take these," she said, and pulled out 3 items from her wrapper. 1. A small black stone with no weight. 2. A feather too heavy to lift. 3. A string that tied nothing yet glowed like fire. "Each will save you once," she said. "Only once. Use them wrong and they will kill you before your curse does." Aderemi stared,
What do I do with them? You run, you climb, you cry, you break, you beg, you fight, you lose, and maybe you leave. Then she disappeared. No smoke, no flash, no sound, just gone. And Aderemi was alone, again. But this time with a reason to keep going, and 3 strange tools to challenge death itself. Still, he had no idea what was waiting for him. Not in the next village, not in the eyes of his friend, not in the betrayal that would make him wish death had come sooner.
By the 3rd village, Aderemi had begun to feel hope. Children no longer ran from his name. The old men didn't whisper cursed one behind kola nuts. He wore a borrowed cloth, slept among fishermen, and for the first time in years, he was not a prince, just a young man with fire in his heart. But fate doesn't forget, and neither does envy. His childhood friend Oba found him in that 3rd village. A son of a nobleman, Oba had always followed Aderemi like a shadow, loyal, loud, and hungry for everything Aderemi had. When he appeared at the village square, wrapped in royal blue with a crooked smile and stories of how he searched the world for his lost brother, Aderemi's heart swelled. "I thought I was alone in this fight," he said. "You were never alone," Oba lied. They drank together, laughed under palm trees, reminisced about the games they played beside the palace well. But one night, as Aderemi slept, the black stone hummed. It vibrated against his chest, a warning. He opened his eyes just in time to hear a whisper. He must not leave. If he dies, I become king. Oba stood inches away, blade drawn, eyes red with fear, not hatred. "I'm sorry, brother, but the curse, it ends with you." Aderemi didn't run. He didn't scream. He simply dropped the black stone and the ground beneath them vanished. Sand swallowed them both. Oba disappeared. And Aderemi, he woke up in a cave, alone, with the stone gone, used. His heart torn. Not because Oba tried to kill him, but because he almost understood why. And that's when it hit him. The real cause wasn't death. It was knowing that your life made others afraid. Afraid enough to want you gone. Afraid enough to choose a lie over love. That night, he didn't sleep. He clutched the heavy feather in one hand and stared at the ceiling of the cave, knowing he had 2 gifts left and a fate that was catching up fast. If this story has your heart racing, imagine what's coming next. Make sure you are subscribed so you don't miss the moment he faces death face to face. Shall we continue? It only gets deeper from here. The cave led to a cliff, and the cliff to nothing. Aderemi had walked for hours through that darkness, feet bruised, thoughts heavy, the betrayal of Oba clinging to his chest like wet cloth. He didn't cry. He couldn't. Instead, he reached into his bag and touched the heavy feather. It should have weighed nothing, but it pulled at him like grief, like guilt. "Only use it once," the old woman had said. "Use it wrong and it will kill you before your curse does." So he kept walking. By sunrise, he reached the edge, a sharp drop into the valley of dust. No way forward, no way back. He sat on the edge, watching hawks dance in the wind. "Is this it?" he asked the sky. "Do I jump? Do I wait for death to come find me like a lazy thief?" The wind whispered, or maybe it was memory, his mother's voice. "You are more than a prophecy, my son. You are a prayer with legs." So he stood up, back straight, eyes forward, and he jumped. But the valley did not swallow him. As he fell, he screamed, not in fear, but in rage. Rage at the curse, at Oba, at the gods who played dice with his life. He screamed until the feather in his bag began to glow.
and then he stopped falling. He fluttered. The feather lifted him like a child in a mother's backcloth, slowly, softly, and placed him on solid ground at the valley floor. He landed on his knees, breathless, broken, alive. But the feather crumbled to ash in his hand. 2 gifts gone, 1 left, and still no idea how to break the curse before the final hour came. But then he heard it. Drums, distant, slow, and ancient. A rhythm that made the air thick, that made trees bow, that made his heartbeat change pace. He wasn't alone in the valley, and whatever waited next had been waiting just for him. The drums grew louder, not just in sound, in weight, in presence. Every beat felt like it struck inside Aderemi's bones. His knees buckled, the ground vibrated, even the beds above circled lower, confused by the rhythm that did not belong to any world they knew. Then, silence. And from behind a wall of mist, she emerged. Not a spirit, not a ghost. A woman. Old, but not weak. Her back straight, her skin marked with deep tribal etchings, her eyes glowing white like untouched ash. She carried no stick, she needed none. Power walked before her like a scent. "You've lost 2 gifts," she said, voice calm like still water. "And you still don't know what you are fighting." Aderemi swallowed. "I'm fighting death." "No," she said sharply, "you are fighting yourself." He stepped forward defiant. "I was cursed. I did not ask to be born with death waiting on my birthday." She nodded slowly, then reached into the air and pulled out something. A mirror. Old, cracked, dull. "Look." He hesitated, then peered into the glass and gasped. He didn't see himself. He saw Oba, then his mother's tears, then the king's silent worry, then a young Aderemi full of light fading into anger. The mirror showed not what he looked like, but what he'd become. "You've let fear guide you," the keeper whispered. "You think this is about living or dying? No, child. This is about choosing who you are, even if it costs you everything." She pointed to a small wooden door behind her. "That door leads to your final path, but you don't get to walk through with that fear strapped to your back." Aderemi clenched his fists. His heart thundered. He wanted to scream, to break the mirror, to run. But instead, he knelt. He whispered something even he didn't know was buried inside him. "I'm afraid I'm not enough." And with that, the mirror shattered and the door creaked open. "Now," the keeper said gently, "you may pass, but know this. The final gift is not what you carry, but what you give." The valley echoed with wind again, but this time it wasn't pushing him back. It was inviting him forward. The door was small, like it wasn't made for humans at all. Aderemi had to crawl through it, the weight of everything he'd seen pressing into his back. Oba's betrayal, the shattered mirror, the feather turned to ash, and the old woman's voice in his bones. When he emerged, the world had changed. There was no sky, no ground, just a circular space, endless and white, like he had stepped into the heartbeat of the universe. And sitting in the center of it all was death, not cloaked, not masked, but a young boy, no older than 10, with skin like polished stone and eyes that held every funeral ever cried on African soil. He sat quietly, swinging his legs,
humming a lullaby only ancestors remembered. Aderemi froze. "You," he whispered. "You followed me since birth." The boy nodded. "You were never supposed to live this long," Death replied, softly. "But you've been interesting." Aderemi's hands balled into fists. "Why me? Why curse a baby who hadn't even lived?" Death shrugged, almost childlike. "I didn't curse you. Face did. I only keep the calendar." Silence. Then Death leaned forward. "But since you came all this way, I'll give you a choice. You can die at sunrise, quietly, painlessly, and be remembered as the prince who defied destiny. Or you can live, but someone else will take your place." The world stopped. "Live, but someone else dies in his stead." He thought of his mother, of Oba, despite the betrayal, of the people he never ruled but who still called him hope. And suddenly, the last item in his bag, the glowing string, began to burn. "Tie it to your wrist," Death said. "It will bind your life to another's. When the time comes, you will feel their heart stop, and yours will go on." Aderemi's throat tightened. Could he live knowing someone else had died in his place? Was it really a gift or another curse? And in that moment, sweat on his palms, his heart beat loud, every memory screaming, Aderemi had to decide. Would he truly refuse to die? Or would he finally surrender? What would you have done? Would you choose life, knowing someone else must pay the price?
Aderemi stood in silence, the glowing string trembling between his fingers. One end was looped, ready. The other end flickered like a dying flame. "Tie it," Death said again. "Or walk away, but you must choose now. The sun is almost here." He stared at his string. His mouth was dry, his knees weak, but it wasn't fear that held him back. Not anymore. It was the weight of knowing. Knowing that if he tied that string, someone's heartbeat would vanish. Someone's mother would mourn. Someone's name would be forgotten for his to continue. His breath hitched. And then he thought of his father, the proud king of Ekan, who never looked his son in the eyes after the curse was declared. He thought of the queen, who prayed every night until her lips cracked. He thought of Oba, the brother who chose a crown over love. He thought of the old woman, the mirror, the drums, the drop, the floating, the falling. And he thought of the boy in front of him, death itself, smiling like a child waiting for a game to begin. "You want me to live?" Aderemi asked. "Then I choose how." He took the string and tied it to his own wrist. "No one else dies for me," he whispered. "If I am to live, it will be by my courage, not someone's absence." The moment the knot tightened, the string glowed white, then gold, then burst into 1,000 burning threads that disappeared into his skin. Death stood up, shocked. "You changed the meaning of the gift," he said. "No one has ever done that." "Then maybe it was never a curse. Maybe it was a test," Aderemi replied. And suddenly, the white space faded. He opened his eyes and he was back in the forest. The sun had risen. He was 21 years, alive, alone, but changed. And for the first time, the birds sang his name, not as a warning, but as a welcome.
But the story doesn't end there. Because living past your death day comes with a body no one prepares you for. The people of Achan were already preparing his funeral. The drummers played low. Women wore white wrappers. The palace corridors echoed with prayers and soft weeping. His mother hadn't slept. His father hadn't spoken. 21 years had passed, and now the prophecy was supposed to be fulfilled. Until they saw him.
Aderemi walked through the palace gates at sunset. Dust on his skin, fire in his eyes, silence in his soul. Some screamed. Others dropped to their knees. One old chief fainted. The queen ran barefoot across the courtyard and held him like she had never let go. "You are alive," she whispered, shaking. "The curse." He only nodded, but his eyes said everything. "Yes, I lived, but I am no longer who I was." The king stood from his throne for the first time in days. His lips trembled. "Are you truly my son?" he asked. Aderemi stepped forward. "I am, but I am no longer just your son. I am the boy who faced death and walked away. I am the man who refused to let others die for him. I am the proof that fate can bend." The kingdom roared, but Aderemi did not smile. Because with life came responsibility. He now carried the pain of what could have been, the weight of every soul who might have been taken in his place had he chosen differently. He had won life, but he had also gained clarity. That life is not a prize, it is a promise. And to keep it, one must lead with truth, not fear. So, he began to rebuild Achan, not just the palace, but the people. He taught them what he had learned, that courage is not loud, it's honest. That destiny is not fixed, it's shaped. That living is not enough, you must live well. And every year on his birthday, he walked into the village square to remind the people that he refused to die, not because he was stronger than death, but because he was willing to face the truth about himself. Sometimes, the real enemy isn't death, it's the fear of becoming who you are meant to be. So, what did this story teach you? Was there a part that made you pause or reflect? Share your thoughts in the comments. And if you made it to the end, thank you. You are part of Aderemi's legacy now. Subscribe to this channel to hear more unforgettable stories rooted in African wisdom, magic, and truth. We have many more tales to tell, and each one could change the way you see the world.